Most people believe that if you want to grow food, you have to plant it every single year like clockwork. Till the soil, buy the seeds, bend your back, and start from absolute zero, over and over again. But what they don't realize is that the smartest, most resilient gardens aren't planted in spring. They're planted once, and they keep giving back for years, sometimes decades, without you lifting a finger. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why relying only on annual plants that die every single year, could actually cost you your food security when grocery store shelves go empty and you're too sick, too busy, or too stressed to plant a single seed. We're living in a time where a carton of eggs cost what a whole chicken used to cost last year, where supply chain disruptions aren't just something you read about in the news. There's something you feel in your wallet every single time you swipe your card at checkout. The systems that once worked, the ones that promised us fresh food whenever we wanted it, are now cracking right in front of us. And here's the hard truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Those cracks aren't going to heal overnight. They're going to get wider. If you're not prepared, if you're still relying completely on grocery stores and annual gardens that require constant replanting, you'll be forced to pay whatever they ask, eat whatever is left on the shelves, or worse, go without. And that's not fear-mongering. That's just looking at the direction we're heading and being honest about it. But here's the good news. There's a way to build a food system in your own backyard that doesn't quit, a system that works while you sleep. And it starts with 10 plants. 10 plants that once they're in the ground become the gift that keeps giving. All right, let's get into it. These aren't just random plants I found on some list online. These are crops I've grown myself. Crops that have survived my mistakes, my neglect, my busy seasons when life got in the way. And they're still here.
Number 1. Asparagus. At first glance, asparagus seems like a fancy vegetable you only see on restaurant plates, something that's not worth the garden space. But what makes it powerful is patience. You plant it once, crowns, not seeds, and you wait. The first year, you don't touch it. The second year, maybe you sneak a few spears. But by year 3, that bed explodes. And here's the kicker. A well-maintained asparagus bed can produce for 20, sometimes 30 years. In a real-world scenario where fresh vegetables disappear from stores in late winter, asparagus is the first fresh green to poke through the soil in early spring. It's called the king of vegetables for a reason. While everyone else is eating canned goods from last year, you're harvesting fresh spears. If you're considering this, look for varieties like Jersey Night or Mary Washington. And for the love of God, don't plant them where you'll want to till later. They're there forever. Commit. Number 2, rhubarb. Most people ignore rhubarb because they think it's just pie filling, or worse, they think it's weird. But here's what makes it powerful. Rhubarb is a perennial vegetable that asks for nothing and gives everything. It's technically a vegetable, but most people treat it like a fruit. It comes back every single year, bigger and more productive than the last. I'm talking 30, 40 pounds per plant once it's established. In a collapse scenario, sugar might be hard to come by, so maybe you're not making pies. But rhubarb is packed with vitamins, and you can cook it down into sauces, jams, even fermented drinks. It's medicine and food in one plant. Practical tip? Plant it in a spot with full sun and give it room. This thing gets massive. And remember, the leaves are toxic, so feed those to the compost, not your family. But those stalks? Gold. Number 3, Jerusalem artichoke, or sunchokes. Okay, this one sounds fancy, but it's actually a weed, and I mean that as the highest compliment. Jerusalem artichokes, or sunchokes, are native to North America. They grow like weeds because they basically are. You plant a few tubers in the ground one time, and congratulations, you now own a sunchoke patch forever. They spread, they multiply, they laugh at frost. Why are they powerful? Because they produce carbohydrates underground when almost nothing else is growing. Late fall, after your tomatoes are dead and your peppers are gone, you can dig up sunchokes. They store in the ground like nature's pantry. You just go out and harvest what you need. In a real-world scenario, calories are king, and these things deliver carbs.
Just introduce them slowly to your diet. Your gut will thank me later. If you're planting these, contain them. They spread like mint. Give them a corner where they can run wild, or plant them in a deep container sunk into the ground. Number 4, horseradish. Most people think horseradish is just a condiment you forget about in the fridge door. But what makes horseradish powerful is that it's basically indestructible. You plant a root and it takes over. In a good way. It's a perennial that comes back harder every year. And in a world where refrigeration might be unreliable, horseradish becomes a survival tool. Why? Because it's a natural preservative. Grate it into ferments, use it to make sauces that mask the taste of less than fresh meat, or just eat it for its potent antimicrobial properties. It clears your sinuses, sure, but it also clears out pathogens. Practical example? During the harsh Russian winters, horseradish was a staple not just for flavor, but for survival. It kept in root cellars for months and provided heat and medicine when nothing else did. If you're planting this, give it space. It's aggressive. But once you have it, you'll never buy that jarred stuff again. Number 5, Egyptian walking onion. This one sounds made up, Egyptian walking onion, but I promise it's real, and it's possibly the most entertaining plant in my garden. What is it? It's a perennial onion that doesn't just sit there, it moves. It produces little bulbils at the top of the stalk. When those get heavy, the stalk falls over, plants those bulbils a few feet away, and the cycle repeats. The onion literally walks across your garden. Why is it powerful? Because in a collapse scenario, onions are one of the first things to disappear from stores. They're a base for almost every savory meal. Having a self-propagating perennial onion means you never have to buy onion sets again, ever. In a real-world scenario, you walk outside, snap off a few greens, or dig up a clump of bulbs, and your meal has flavor. No planting required. Actionable tip? Plant them once and let them walk. Guide them where you want them. They're cold-hardy, drought-tolerant, and practically immortal.
Number 6, Good King Henry. Most people have never heard of Good King Henry, and that's exactly why it's on this list. It's an old-world perennial vegetable that our great-great-grandparents ate regularly. It got forgotten because it's not pretty enough for grocery stores, but it's a nutritional powerhouse. You eat the leaves like spinach, the shoots like asparagus, and the flower buds like broccoli. One plant, 3 vegetables. Why is it powerful? Because it's perennial, meaning it comes back every spring without you doing anything, and it's one of the first greens to emerge. In a food shortage, early greens are worth their weight in gold. They provide vitamins after a long winter of storage foods. In a collapse scenario, diversity is survival. Good King Henry adds that diversity without adding work. If you're planting this, find a spot with partial shade and decent soil. Once it's happy, it's yours forever. Number 7, perennial kale or tree collards. Kale is trendy. Everyone grows it, but most people treat it as an annual, plant it in spring, pull it in fall. But here's the secret. Kale is actually a short-lived perennial if you treat it right, and there are varieties like tree collards that are bred to live for years. They grow into woody shrubs and you just keep harvesting leaves off them. Why is this powerful? Because fresh greens are the hardest thing to come by in a crisis. Canned vegetables lose nutrients over time, but a perennial kale bush, it pumps out fresh leaves through frost, through snow, through whatever winter throws at it. Not forever, but long after your lettuce is dead. Practical example? During the lockdowns, my perennial kale kept producing when I couldn't get to the store for weeks. It was my security blanket. If you're considering this, look for walking stick kale or Dobbinton's kale. Protect them in extreme winters with a simple row cover, and they'll keep giving. Number 8, sorrel. Sorrel is one of those plants that seems too simple to matter. It's just a green, right? Wrong. Sorrel is a powerhouse because of its flavor and its persistence. It has a bright lemony paste that comes from oxalic acid. That acid cuts through fat, brightens up stews, and makes even the blandest meal taste fresh. In a survival situation, morale matters, and flavor is morale. Why is it powerful? Because it's a perennial that comes back early and stays late. You can cut it back and it regrows. It spreads slowly but not invasively, and it requires zero maintenance. In a collapse scenario, having a plant that adds flavor without salt, without lemons, without vinegar, that's a game changer. You can't always count on having those things, but sorrel, it's just there. Quick tip, plant French sorrel for the best flavor. Use it in soups, salads, or mixed into cream cheese if you're feeling fancy. Number 9. Lovage. Lovage is celery that you only have to plant once. That's the simplest way to put it. Celery is a pain to grow. It's thirsty, it's picky, it's slow. Lovage, on the other hand, grows like a weed, tastes exactly like celery, maybe even stronger, and comes back every single year bigger than before. Why is this powerful? Because celery is a base for soups, stews, and stocks. In a crisis, you're going to be making a lot of soups and stews to stretch your ingredients. Having lovage means you always have that celery flavor, even in winter if you dry the leaves. In a real-world scenario, you chop the stems, you use the leaves as herb, you even grind the seeds as a spice. One plant replaces multiple grocery items. If you're planting lovage, give it height. It can grow 6 feet tall. Put it in the back of your garden where it won't shade out smaller plants. Number 10. Perennial spinach. Spinach substitutes. Number 10 is actually a category because there are a few plants that do what spinach does, but they come back every year. I'm talking about New Zealand spinach, orach, which is also called mountain spinach, and chard, which is technically a biennial, but often self-seeds like a perennial if you let it. Why are these powerful? Because real spinach bolts the second it gets hot. It's a cool weather crop, and then it's done. These alternatives keep producing through summer heat, through drought, through neglect.
In a collapse scenario, you need plants that laugh at bad weather. These do. Practical example. New Zealand spinach saved my garden during a heat wave 2 years ago. Everything else was crispy. This stuff, thriving. I picked leaves every single day. If you're considering these, plant them once and let a few go to seed. They'll come back on their own, year after year, like volunteers that never stop saying thank you. 10 plants. That's it. Plant them once, and you've built a food forest that doesn't quit when times get hard. No tilling every spring, no seed orders every January. Just food waiting for you. Now here's where most people get it wrong, and I want to catch this before you grab a shovel and start digging. They think that because these plants are perennial or self-sufficient, you can just throw them in the ground and forget about them forever, like some kind of food vending machine that requires zero interaction. But the truth is, perennial doesn't mean unkillable. It means resilient. These plants still need you in the beginning. They need water their first year while they establish roots. They need mulch to protect them from temperature swings. They need you to pull the grass that tries to choke them out when they're young. Think of it this way. You're not just planting food, you're building a relationship. And like any good relationship, the first year takes effort. But after that, they show up for you year after year. Even when you forget about them, even when life gets crazy, even when the world outside your fence feels like it's falling apart. So don't fall for the fantasy that you can plant and ghost. Put in the work up front, and these plants will outlive your mortgage. Look, I want to be really clear about something. This isn't about panic. It's not about stockpiling weapons and waiting for the world to burn. That's not who I am, and that's not what this channel is about. This is about positioning, plain and simple. The people who prepare quietly today, who put perennial roots in the ground while everyone else is watching Netflix, those are the people who will have leverage tomorrow. Not leverage over others, but leverage over their own lives. The freedom to choose, the peace of mind that comes from knowing you're not completely dependent on systems that don't care if you eat or not.
That's not fear, that's wisdom. When the system struggles, and it will struggle because all systems eventually do, prepared people don't panic. They don't stand in empty aisles with a blank stare. They don't fight over the last bag of rice. They adapt. They walk outside, clip some asparagus, dig some sunchokes, and keep moving forward. They protect what matters. They preserve what they have, and they sleep soundly, knowing that no matter what happens out there, in here, there's food. And that's what this channel is about. Not fear, not doom, just quiet, stubborn independence. One plant at a time.
If you're ready to build that kind of security for yourself and your family, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. Next week, I'm showing you how to preserve all this abundance without a freezer, without a canner, using methods that are older than electricity. Until then, get your hands in the dirt, trust the perennials, and I'll see you in the next one.